I thought Bill Belichick to the Atlanta Falcons was a done deal. I thought we knew Bill wanted to go somewhere where there was a lot of talent, and they were just a good coach away from getting a playoff. Atlanta Falcons seem perfect in a weak NFC South. You got all that talent down there, like we've talked about: Bijan, Drake, Kyle Pitts. No, they go with Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the LA Rams. So it wasn't even like they wanted an offensive-minded coach. They went with a defensive-minded coach. And it's someone who's been a head coach before. It didn't work out in Tampa Bay. But he was also an interim head coach in Atlanta before. So maybe they liked the familiarity. They liked the youngness, the youth. What was your reaction to this hire?
My reaction?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it. I don't know how to feel about it entirely. I mean, I think the season that he got fired, or the season that he was interim head coach, the Falcons started at 0-5, and then he finished the season 5-11, or he finished off with like a 5-11. I don't remember what the record was, but it was like he only got like 5 or 6 more wins for the team or something like that. It wasn't anything like spectacular where you see interim head coaches like, you know, be like, oh yeah, they finished with a 6-2 record going 8-9 or, you know, 8-8 or whatever. And you're like, oh shoot, that was actually pretty good. Why didn't they sign him? But personally, I think it's a bold move in a way. I do think that Morris is a good coordinator. I mean, I think the Rams had a pretty decent season, considering that many many Rams fans thought that this was a rebuild year for them. So I really think that it was he obviously did really well on defense at times. I mean, obviously the defense did look a little poor, but I think that the team looked pretty well. However, it's interesting to note that Bill Belichick is a very defensive-minded coach, and he lost out the job to Raheem Morris, which is kind of an interesting topic of discussion considering that Raheem Morris doesn't have as much head coaching experience as someone like Bill Belichick, who has been coaching for 23 seasons or 23 plus probably, because he's been coaching.
We thought Bill was going to get to pick.
Yeah.
We thought Bill was going to be able to walk into any organization in the league and be like, hey, your head coach is out. I'm in. I got this. Let's go win a Super Bowl.
I guess, I don't know. I mean, I think that makes it even more of a scratch in the head thing, because it might not even be these organizations just being like, no, we're not going to go sign Bill Belichick. I think maybe there's something that they're trying to stay away from that we're not really seeing behind closed doors. I think you kind of alluded to it in our text group chat that we have with Stan the Jet fan and Alvarado the Mr. Rookie Man. But I think you kind of alluded to it. You're like, what did Bill Belichick say in these meetings? Because I mean, I feel like he's losing out jobs to just random coordinators that you're like, what? You're just kind of shocked about it.
So Bill was only, if I believe this is correct, I think the only team that requested an interview with him so far has been the Atlanta Falcons. And then they gave it to not Dave Canales. He's in Carolina, which is another weird hiring that I was just thinking about. But they go with Raheem Morris. The only thing I can think of is they want a long-term solution. Bill Belichick he's older. He's 71. And he's really only got one thing left to check off on his box, and that is the overall wins record. And he is 14 behind Don Shula right now, so he needs 15 to beat it. I mean, is that something that as an owner, you want to be like, okay, yeah, let's go 3 seasons here, get you that win record, and then I know you're going to be out probably because you're going to be 74, 75. Or do you hire the younger, less proven guy? I mean, what is your strategy there? Especially with a team like the Atlanta Falcons, where the talent's already there on offense. The talent is there on defense as well. And
yeah, I think I don't know. I think I think Morris is going to be really good, but it might take him a little bit of time to get used to what he's doing. I mean, obviously he did do interim head coaching for a little bit, but obviously now he is the head coach, and he's got to take a bunch of different guys who aren't the same necessarily, like the same group of guys. I mean, when was he interim head coach? I mean, it's got to have been a couple of years ago, probably.
It was between, I think it was between Dan Quinn and Arthur Smith.
Yeah, so that would have been not too long ago then, a couple years ago.
Hang on, before he was in Atlanta, he was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 3 years. So he does have head coaching experience from 2009 to 2011.
Okay, so he does.
He went 17-31.
Oh wow, that's an interesting. But Tampa Bay also at that point in time was not that solid of a team. They had nothing that they were working with over in Tampa, or maybe they didn't, or maybe they did have stuff that they had working on, and they just didn't have a solid coach.
What is your fear here? Are you Atlanta? The only thing I can think of, if Atlanta is the youth thing, and then they're planning on drafting a quarterback. Because they are honestly only a quarterback away from being competitive. And if they're drafting a quarterback, they're probably looking at Mac Jones and saying, okay, Bill cannot develop a quarterback. We know that. Because he had Brady, and then he didn't really develop Mac. Bailey hasn't really developed. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't.
I was going to say, do you think he developed Jimmy Garoppolo? Because Jimmy Garoppolo was, he led San Francisco to a Super Bowl, regardless that he lost it, and he hasn't done well with the Raiders. I mean,
is that Bill Belichick? Is that Jimmy Garoppolo? Or is that Kyle Shanahan?
That's a good point, though. I mean, that's the same thing. These are the topics that we've had on multiple occasions where it's like, when it comes to blaming coaches, do you blame the coach, the player, or the coordinator? Or like the development coach in this case scenario. It's like, do you like in this circumstance, was it the quarterback's coach at that time, or was it the coordinator, or was it the head coach, or was it just the player himself that was really good?
But if I'm worried about developing a quarterback, wouldn't I want an offensive-minded coach?
Well, you would want an offensive-minded.
It doesn't make sense to me. That's why this hiring is so confusing.
And that's because if you already had like a solid defense, I mean, you've got some decent players over there. I mean, you just picked up, I'm sorry, John. I mean, you have like a Jesse Bates and stuff like that over there. I know it just kind of.
No, Jesse's a stud. Jesse's great.
Yeah. But I know it doesn't matter. Anyway, but I think that, I know you have like a pretty decent defense, but obviously like, I feel like your main focus in Atlanta should probably be on the offense, considering a lot of your offensive weapons, need a little bit of development. And they're like you said, they're just a quarterback away from possibly, making a playoff berth and moving forward. In my opinion, I think that they should have probably went with an offensive-minded coach. I mean, that would have left out Bill Belichick and like Raheem Morris. But I feel like at that point, then at that point you can figure out what to do with your upcoming quarterback that you may be drafting, because obviously Desmond Ridder isn't it, and they're not going to probably run with Taylor Heinicke. So, I mean, I don't even know who they would look to draft, but I mean, there's a lot of, like I've already said multiple times, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft. You just got to figure out which one is going to end up being that guy.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly probably, with where they're drafting, you could probably just throw a dart at the wall and hit a decent quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be looking at the JJ McCarthy's, where it's maybe he can start, probably not.
No, they're gonna want a quarterback that can start right off the bat.
Well, that's what I mean.
So they might even trade up, depending. I don't know, where are they on the list? Because they're 7-10, so they have to be within 10 to 15, probably.
Bengals are 18, and they were the last team out of the
playoffs. So they're probably like 11 or 12, right?
They're number 8.
Oh, damn!
That's what I mean. They can.
They could grab one of those guys, and even if they wanted to jump up a little bit and grab one of those other guys, like a Jaden Daniels, who's now projected to go number 2. So
Harrison Jr. is going to take up a spot.
Yeah,
Williams is probably gone. Harrison's gone. Drake May, Daniels, Michael Penix Jr. might still be there at 8.
Yeah,
especially with like Joe Alt out of Notre Dame, if he goes in the top 10, top 5.
I'm telling you, I mean, there's a lot of options that they have. I mean, and like you said, like I said, like if they decide to trade up or something like that and do something wild, where a team's like, you know what, I don't want to take a risk on Jaden Daniels, and this team is like, I'll trade you, and then they trade down to Atlanta's pick, and then they take like a Michael Penix Jr. or something like that, and they give Jaden Daniels to Atlanta. I mean, it's possible. We don't really know how the draft is going to work, but in that case, if you're just focusing on your quarterback and that's like the last key thing that you need, obviously you're probably going to need some defensive players. You're probably going to want some secondary. You're always going to want depth in your positions and whatnot. But in my opinion, I don't know why you would go with a defensive-minded coach, but maybe this will be a really good thing. But it really concerns me because if you're going more defense, you better really like focus on the strengths of your defense, because now your offense is going to be taking a little bit of a backseat if you're going to focus too much on the defense. But maybe they'll have some good coordinators to lead them to glory over there. But let's hope for the best for Raheem Morris, right? Not we? Why don't we try not to?
We hope it works out, except for when he's playing our teams. What did you?
Thanks for watching that video, guys. If you want to check out a most recent full episode of No Buts About It, that's going to be right over here. Yeah, right there. Check that out. And if you just want to see more short clips, we're going to have one right over here for you to watch. Check out No Buts About It on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts, so you can listen to us on the go. Once again, have a great day and go do something nice for someone.